Captain America the Winter Soldier is a top 5 MCU movie as of this moment recording this video. Don't believe me? Let's get into the review. How are we doing, everybody? This is Let's Be Real with Brad. Today on our MCU Mondays, we will discuss the 10th film chronologically with Captain America the Winter Soldier. This film is a top 5 MCU film because it totally refines the MCU in such a meaningful way, with its storyline affecting all the other movies to come. It also sets up the more severe, action-packed tone, making many of these upcoming films less cheesy comic book movies and legitimate superhero movies that can be taken seriously. This movie's most significant accomplishment is that it is a fresh, memorable, and unique movie because of its tone and the way it tells its story. This feels like an espionage spy movie taken quite seriously throughout, which mostly leads to positives except for a few negatives. The story itself is what I like the most because it does change the whole franchise as a complete moving forward. The S.H.I.E.L.D. organization is a significant part of the comic books that has so much history behind it. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been compromised, making for an exciting storyline that adds a stakes level of first for the MCU. Yet on rewatch and with other Marvel films being released, the rewatchability has gone down because you know what happens with these characters and events in later films, but I still think it manages to keep you on edge throughout. Captain America's arc, which is the entire movie's backbone, is easily my favorite aspect. Steve Rogers has always been known for his patriotic soldier mentality, being loyal to the core, but since he has come back from being frozen in ice, he doesn't understand the new world that he's in. The whole movie has to continually challenge those views throughout, seeing that loyalty and patriotism being questioned. Steve does start to become one of the most compelling characters in the series due to the philosophical changes. He starts to not trust the people he cares about, making him a more enjoyable and complex character. We get introduced to the Winter Soldier, who is a fantastic villain, being a menacing and terrifying foe to Cap all throughout this film. He doesn't crack jokes or any one-liners, just a one-minded psychotic killer that added to the intense tone this movie took. Many comic book fans already knew who the Winter Soldier was, but this is a big twist that I know many have enjoyed for ordinary everyday people. Even if you are a comic book fan, the review was executed perfectly, which satisfied everyone. The final big battle sequence was unique from the previous Marvel films, which I enjoyed more. It had more than just the last fight with the villain at the end of the movie. It felt like stakes were involved with the ending, leaving many exciting unanswered questions that get you too excited for the next few movies to come. It was executed well, as I wish more Marvel films took this route. The acting is also pretty good in this film, with Chris Evans back in Captain America's role, killing it as usual. Samuel L. Jackson again returns as Nick Fury with having his most significant role yet, which I think he was incorporated perfectly into this movie. Scarlett Johansson was also in the film, back as Black Widow, giving a solid performance. Everyone else in the movie is solid. The next positive I can give this film is the action. I think it is some of the best action we have seen up to this point in the series, with tons of kick-ass action involving hand-to-hand combat scenes and explosions being shot well. Since the movie's tone is solemn for the most part, the action feels much more personal and up close, with very intense moments that don't get an offhanded joke like in other Marvel films. This stylized feel to the action has been a trademark for the Russo brothers in the future. The directing is also done well by the Russo brothers, as they will play a significant role in the MCU series as we go along, as they change the scope and feel of all their films. The visual effects are also awe-inspiring, as most, if not all, the MCU films have. This is something we come to expect nothing less from an MCU film, as all the action looks excellent with explosions, gunfire, and being able to make it all look lifelike, being a more grounded film than other MCU films. The music is also decent, as it has some hard-hitting music to fuel these bombastic, exciting action scenes. Even for the dramatic moments, I thought it was okay, as it didn't impress me in all that much. The music as a whole was a decent addition to the film. Also, the end credit scene is in my top 5 favorite end credit scenes because it introduces 2 new characters that are major in the Marvel Universe, which was done so correctly. This film does have a few negatives, starting with the writing. As much as a considerable amount of dialogue is right, there is still a good chunk that is very cheesy and corny and just very bad. Most of the time this happens when we get a stretch of only characters talking, which can lead to a boring melodramatic dialogue that doesn't work for me at times. The humor doesn't work for me except for a few jokes because it feels out of place when it doesn't need to be there. The film handles this exceptionally well for about 90% of the movie, so I will take it. As much as the action is excellent, the editing can also be very distracting in some parts of the film, with the story feeling clunky and hard to see in moments. A few times when many practical visual effects are being used in hand-to-hand combat scenes, they can totally see that those are body doubles and not the real actors. I usually never see this in most films, but this film looked quite noticeable. Also, a nitpicky critique is that a character we have met before in the MCU is now old, but they use the same actress from that previous movie to add the CGI old look to it that was very distracting to look at. I'm not sure if this is because I saw this movie for the first time in 4K, because it added so much more detail in the CGI old look face, but I'm not too sure. Most of you may have not noticed it, but it stood out like a sore thumb. It's not a legit critique because I appreciate what they were trying to do with the pretty good scene. Overall, this is one of my favorite MCU films that I think deserves all the praise it gets because of how exciting, solemn, and grand this movie is. It evolves a Captain America into more than the basic patriotic, but someone who ultimately fights for justice, not being strictly loyal to one side of it all. The action is stupendous, with one of the MCU's best stories along with memorable moments. I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10. So, let me know down below in the comments section what you think of Captain America the Winter Soldier and where it ranks in your MCU rankings. Next week, we will be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of my favorite MCU films, so be sure to watch the movie before next week's review. As always, I will see you all in the next video.